Hey everyone, welcome to the Do the Thing podcast. This is your host, Stacey Lauren. Well, you guys, this is exciting. As doing community building and community activation for so many communities now, I've been able to really kind of see the companies that are out there that are doing it really well. And that's been one of the goals that I've had for the last few months. Now that I have my whole kind of community activation comfort circle framework all dialed in, and I've decided that the challenges and my people parties that I do are the key to helping people connect online and in person. And one of the big things I've been looking for are people that are really aligned with that mission and that are helping people in really unique and different ways. And guess what? You're going to meet her today. So my guest has already been on a Do the Thing expert panel. We had a Find My People expert panel, and she was one of the experts. So I've already gotten to see her zone of genius activated, and also might have binged some of the videos that I've seen on her platform. And she just constantly is so good at being able to help you understand the importance of how community fits into business, and then also from internal activation inside of people actually just getting to know each other in a really cool way. And I love how she talks about how AI can actually connect people and not replace them, and really understanding the importance of that. And she is the VP of Lifecycle Marketing for Mighty Network. So I'm so excited to introduce Jane to the show. Hey, Jane.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for that intro, Stacey. I'm stoked to be here. I love to eat, sleep, breathe, talk about community and how we make it better, stronger, more resilient, and just that more people have more communities that they're excited to be in and foster and party with. So let's talk about all of it.
Yeah, it's because I think a lot of people get confused about community and what it is. Especially, I wonder, I'm going to go on a rabbit hole right now, because there's people that think their email list is their community or their Instagram is their community. And they don't understand that it's like private community is where the activation really happens.
Yeah, I would add to that. I think if that's what you love to do, go for it. There's lots of people who are like, I have a thing I need to put in the world and I want people to hear about it. To me, that's your email newsletter. And it's great. And I'm not saying that you can't have connections kind of forming, but in general, I don't think me reading your incredible newsletter over here in Nova Scotia and then someone reading it in Oakland, California, I don't feel like we're in a community together. But I love all the ways that people are putting their thoughts out there. When I think about community, it's really, sure, you may start it as the person who's bringing people together, but ultimately it's about those ties between your members, those interactions between your members. At Mighty, we call that people magic. And that not only makes community more fun and less work, because it's not about you producing something every week in the way an email newsletter is, but it also is just a more valuable business because I can get content anywhere. The relationships I form in a community, that's priceless to me. So it's like you're able to help me have those relationships. That's in a different category of what I'm paying for in a private or paid community than a content subscription, right? Which I think people sometimes equate those things and it gets a little murky. But once you really think about it that way, it's a different ballgame.
Yeah, it's so good the way you're saying it, because there's so many people that think they just need to keep pouring out more and more content, and that's supposed to activate or engage. Again, like you said, there's a time and a place for that. But if you're specifically looking to engage people, now you want to create a safe space for them to connect, for them to become friends, for them to get to know each other, because that's when everything goes to another place.
And I even think framing it as a safe space is limiting in some ways, because I know people, myself included, I want a place where I'm challenged, right? I want a place where I'm pushed to be better in certain ways. And then I also want my cozy place that is safe, where it's not a source of making me better, but I have really strong relationships there in a different way. I think in all cases, we've all had some limiting views of community, maybe shaped by social media, right? So when I think about social media and the hellscape it has become for many today, pardon my French. I do think about, okay, so community would be a safe space, but I actually think there's expansion in what community can be. Again, it can challenge you, push you in new directions. It can really stretch you. It can be a place where you're not meeting people just like you, but you're meeting people who are different in the way you need to be challenged, right? It can be kind of anything. It doesn't just have to exist as counterpoint to what social media has become. I got a lot of opinions about community, as you will find in this interview.
Yeah. So tell us about People Magic and Mighty Networks too.
Yeah. So Mighty is a community platform, and our leadership team, specifically our CEO, Gina Bianchini, has been obsessed with community for many, many years. She started a company called Ning, basically pre-Facebook, that was allowing people to make their own social networks. So a really similar idea of you want to bring people together around something, and you want to be the one who's kind of defining what that is and what the rules are and what you're going to do together and how you're going to play together and events, and giving people that kind of customization and control. So I bring that up because Mighty Networks in many ways is the natural evolution of that original company name. And we have incredible software that not only enables you to, sure, have a place for your content, right? If you have a course or you do events or you post a blog, you can have it in a Mighty Network, but more importantly, have a place for your people and introduce them to each other. So we talk about this idea of people magic. It's both a philosophy of how we think about community. Community is about real people interacting with each other, but also how we built the software using advanced technology, using AI, which I know we're going to talk about, to help the most relevant people find each other, right? So if I'm in a Mighty Network and I'm browsing the members, I'm going to have a different experience than you are in the same Mighty Network with the same members, because it's going to be saying, hey, Jane, you have this in common with Lisa. You guys could talk about this. Do you want me to help you break the ice? And you might have other things in common with Lisa or Tom or Jody, right? You're going to have a different experience, and we're both going to come out of it with different connections that are going to be the most valuable to us. So it's really exciting to see where the technology can go from just a place to house content and sure bring people in to know it's about the people. They might come for your content, but they're going to stay for the community.
So is that how you're using AI to help enhance the relationships?
Yeah. I mean, of course, we think about AI expansively because I think there's lots of applications, right? When you think about how big of a technology that is. But I think where a lot of the conversation is today is, how can AI replace people, for lack of a better word, right? Or complement them, but then you start to see that line encroaching, right? And there's lots of places where I think AI can save people time, right? If you want to create content, sure, it can give you a first draft. But ultimately, if you want to bring people together, maybe it's just me, but I don't really want to spend my time in a community talking to a robot. I want to talk to another real person. But if AI can help me find the right real person to talk to and make that first introduction a little less awkward, and maybe say, hey, looks like there's a lot of people in this community in this area. Do you guys want to host a meetup? Here's where you could do it. Here's a time. That's kind of the work I'm really excited to have technology do, so I can just show up to the party and hang out with real people I'm interested in.
Wow, that's so exciting. And then one of the things that came out of the expert panel that you had shared, which I love, is you had mentioned how important it is as you're finding these spaces to connect, is finding people that even have gone through a similar transition. And I'd love to maybe have you talk more about that too.
Yeah, this has been a breakthrough for us and in how we teach community. So not only we make community software, of course, but we're also deeply passionate about whatever software you're using. How are you successful in bringing people together, scaling your community, and creating a great experience for people and getting your members talking? So there's a software, but then there's just a strategy of how you think about community, which is a pretty hot topic these days. Many people, community experts, talking about, well, you got to do this and you got to do that. And it can be confusing, right? There's a lot of different frameworks or approaches. So we took the time to think about, okay, how do we really distill this down and make it so simple based on all the data we have about successful communities and what makes some successful and some not because of all the hundreds of thousands of communities that have been on Mighty. And this idea of a transition was really a breakthrough for us because so many people think when you're starting a business, and I think a lot of this came from starting a content first business, it's like, what's my niche, right? If I'm going to make a lot of content, how do I make sure I'm making content for the right niche? And I think that makes sense in a content heavy business model, right? If your course is really specific or your newsletter is really for like a key persona, you might have a better way of marketing it. The difference is when you're marketing a membership, it's not about a specific niche necessarily because people are joining a community to go through a transition, to go from A to B, because that is what a community is best at. If I just want to hang out with people, I got my girlfriends, I can poke around on TikTok, I can entertain myself and hang out. I've seen, I can't even tell you how many WhatsApp groups, Discord communities that have totally flatlined because they're just like, this is a place for us to hang out. I'm like, well, what am I really getting out of this, right? So our breakthrough was actually, if you really focus on the transition. So this is a community for first-time female entrepreneurs who are looking to raise their first round. That's a really clear, okay, I'm here and I want to go here. First-time parents of twins who want to someday sleep 8 hours. Very clear transition somebody is in. And when you really start to think about it, there's infinite transitions that people go through. And it's those moments when, oh my gosh, you're up in the middle of the night and you don't even know what to Google. Right. You're like, how do I navigate this? And that is when you're like, I really wish I had a community. And maybe there's some people who are a half step behind me. And maybe there's some people who are a half step ahead that can kind of help me navigate this and get to the other side. And when you orient your community around a transition, it's much easier to explain and market and get people excited about, because it's not just a place to hang out. It's really a place to navigate this transition they find themselves in.
It's so cool because one of the things I do with the communities that I'm helping build, it's like I have them do a challenge based on a goal. And then I have this formula that is powered by, but it's like the challenge has a goal. But when I think about all the challenges that I've had, my dating challenge or my start a podcast challenge or whatever it was, there was always some kind of transition that was happening in the life, whether it was divorce or business change or whatever it was. And so I think it's a really powerful way to look at it because then you're connecting specific people to whatever goal you're wanting that activation to happen with.
Yeah. And can I just say a transition can be, I don't have a podcast and I want to have a podcast. It doesn't have to be an earth-shattering moment, though those are great for communities. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
It just has to be a clear, like, I'm at A and I want to get to B. And when you start thinking about it, as I said, there's infinite possibilities. And maybe if someone's listening to this, they're like, oh, I spent all this time defining my niche. I bet if you sat with it for an hour, you could think about 30 transitions that really relate to the work you've already done. So it's not that work to niche down is useless. It's just take it that level further and dial in the transition if you want to add a community component, because we found it makes a huge difference in marketability and clarity for you as the host of the community of how you're going to kind of run this thing.
And so I don't remember the exact phrase that I've seen on the emails, but you guys are the home of a lot of different $1 million.
Yeah, the most $1 million communities. And it's funny because, of course, we have people who have large audiences. I'm thinking about a Mel Robbins or a Marie Forleo. But when you look at how we have worked with them to set up their communities and the principles and the formula, it all comes back to this idea of people magic and these 9 steps that can get you to $1 million community. So there's not this secret sauce of, hey, guess what? The secret to $1 million community is to have 10 million followers. Wouldn't that be a letdown? But it's just about how you create a community where every member who joins brings more value and helps the community grow.
Do you mind going through the 9 steps? I'm like,
oh my gosh, I would love for it. Yeah, I would love to. And I'll do a little plug for something free, which is our People Magic Profit Masterclass, which will go into these in much more detail. You'll hear it from Gina herself, who I'll do a poor Gina impression. But yeah, I'm happy to talk about them. Step number 1, identify your transition. And this is your ideal member. So who is that person? What is the transition they are in? And you identify that. Step number 2, what is the vision of the end of that transition? And we call that your best year ever. So what is that person's best year ever? And I'm a pretty practical person sometimes. So this was a push for me. But once I started thinking about it, you really want to be expansive and aspirational and build this vision as you're thinking about this best year ever. I coach many people who are like, I really don't want to overpromise. I don't want to say, oh, they're going to have their best year ever. But actually, that framing is really helpful. And by the way, community is how you get incredible results, right? You have to get out of the mindset of I'm selling them a piece of content. So no, this is the community and they will get their best year ever. And then step number 3 is taking those 2 things, so your ideal member and the best year ever, and combining them in what we call your big purpose. And this is kind of the foundation for your marketing. So it's, I bring together that ideal member who is in this transition so that we can, what you're going to do together to have this best year ever. And we coach you on how to write it. And it becomes this kind of foundational piece for your community that becomes the pitch for your community. You can translate it into your elevator pitch when you're meeting real people. You can translate it into all sorts of marketing, and you can really teach it to your members so they become these kind of walking ambassadors for your community. So I love the big purpose. It's something we reinforce even in our software. When you make a mighty network, the first thing you do is tell us who you're bringing together, and then we help you generate that big purpose because it just gives you such clarity and confidence going forward when you have that foundation. So those are steps 1 through 3, the foundation. Then it's like, okay, so what am I going to do together with these people, right? What are we going to do in our community? And that's when we get into this thing we call the community design plan. So we've taught, at this point, probably 15,000 people have gone through this course. We've called it community design. It's had a couple different names, but it's the same principles. And what this does is takes a couple hours, get your pen out, do some thinking, but you walk away with a year in your community planned out. I've done workshops on this specifically, even where I'm using our AI tools to help you do it in 20 minutes, right? So it's really worth doing. And your community design plan is you have monthly themes. Monthly themes are what you structure your community around, 1 per month. It provides some variety, but also they all call back to your big purpose. I have a few formulas for doing them, thinking about milestones people will have on this journey, thinking about the mindset shifts they need to make. So you can think about, one example I use is a community for ultra runners. Some of the mindset shifts are like managing race day anxiety, right? That could be an entire monthly theme. Visualizing success, that could be an entire monthly theme. Finding my support group, knowing who's in my corner, all these things around the mindset you need to have. That's a great framework for monthly themes. Then we go a level deeper with your weekly calendar. One of the, I don't like to say mistakes, one of the pitfalls I see community builders fall into, I'm so curious if you've ever experienced this, is trying to create value by just having so much planned. And an event every single day of the week. Plus, hey, the first thing you get hit with when you join my community, my 95-hour course, because that's so much value for you. I don't know about you. That overwhelms me even just talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it overwhelms me, it's going to overwhelm your members. And then, of course, it's going to not be sustainable for you as the host of this community. And it also can inhibit your ability to be consistent. So one of the things we teach is when you're thinking about your community design plan and what you're going to do on a weekly basis, because you do want to build a habit with your members. There's nudges in the software. We have streaks. There's gamification to get people coming back. But ultimately, you want your programming to build that habit. It is so much better to have one thing every week that you do at the same time consistently, and you commit as the host to showing up every week. And it could be a post. It doesn't necessarily have to be an event, though I think events are fantastic for seeing people's faces and occupying the same space and time. But that consistency matters much more than, okay, it's book club Monday, workout Wednesday, win Friday, and just stuffing the calendar. So we walk you through how to think about your weekly calendar. And then again, that feeling of, oh my gosh, I don't have enough. Well, people are looking at their weekly calendar where we've pushed them to have one or two things. Then what about the other days? What's going to happen? And I totally get it. Being a community builder is a little bit different from just being able to be at your laptop typing and push send and your newsletter goes out. And I know you've talked a lot about kind of getting over that anxiety of like doing the thing, like do the thing. But ultimately in a community, yeah, you're reliant on other people to show up. But the funny thing is, I think one of the number one skills that anybody has or can really hone is just asking a great question. I think we talked about this in the panel too. So once you have your weekly calendar, the other thing to think about is what are 2 to 3 questions? Again, this is built into the software. We can help you. You can even auto publish them. But if you're not using Mighty and you're building community elsewhere, it's an age-old skill. Ask a good question and it will pay dividends. The best dinner parties I've been at is the host not standing up there and talking for 4 hours. They're throwing out questions and then people are like, oh my gosh, never thought about, or that's how I would do it. And you start to see connections forming. It's so powerful. If I have a host come to me and I'm like, oh, my engagement is down. I'm not sure what I'm doing. Can you take a look? 9 times out of 10, I can go into their community and I can say, okay, just for the next 2 months, commit to scheduling a question every other day, a poll, and just come back to me. That consistency and just putting those little sparks out there will make a huge difference. Yeah. I love a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, as a podcast host, just kind of your job.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And I'll wrap up the questions because, again, you'll get a much better, more actionable version of this if you do the People Magic Profit class, which is free. But then we go into, okay, so you have your community design plan. How do you craft your offer? What do you price it at? How do you launch? And how do you have a magical first experience? I think a lot of things stop at, and then you launch. Bye. Good luck with that. But that first experience of people coming in, how do you make that really unexpected and emphasize the purpose and what you're doing together? And that really can make a difference in how your members show up and are invested in not just what they're going to get out of the community, but kind of being your ambassador. So lots of good stuff. And it's, again, this 9-step formula that we've seen power the most successful communities on Mighty. So I'm into it.
Yeah, it's great when you kind of identify what the exact sequence is and then you see it played out over and over again and you're like, wait, that worked? Okay. And then, oh, that worked again. And then you're like, oh, wait, this actually works. You just have to follow this map that we've already laid out for you. That's like so exciting.
And I think hopefully we reiterate this in everything we do. Look, every communities are different. We've kind of pulled out some of these macro things we see, but ultimately I think one of the most valuable traits as a community builder is this ability to really stay curious. these are real people. It's a human system. Again, it's not like you're setting up a funnel software automation, right? There are real people at every step of this, and it's a human system. And I think the hosts that stay curious and kind of workshop and reframe things are ultimately the most successful because they're excited to figure out what kind of variations on this formula are really going to work for their ideal member. It's one of the things I love the most about community is maybe feels counterintuitive because I just said, oh my gosh, we've seen this formula in every one, but also just every community is so different. And the stories, they're just incredible and weird. And I love weird. It's so great.
What's the
number of bird aromatherapists on Mighty? We got all of them.
That's
Dude,
so
it's awesome. If you ever think out there in the world, there are not enough people interested in what I'm interested in and what I want to bring people together around, you are wrong. You are wrong.
So was that the ninth step? Was that the asking the questions?
A magical first experience is the final step. So yeah, the ones in between, there's your offer, your launch, which includes pricing, and then you get to that magical first experience.
Got it. What have you noticed your typical communities? Is there any average of what they're charging people to be in the community? And then also, is there a way to give people anytime free before they join, or are they weekly joining?
Yeah, great question. So we see across all the Mighty networks that charge, and of course, some don't, right? There are some communities that are free or nonprofit or have a different model. But when we're talking about pricing, we're looking at the ones that charge. And I will say people pay attention to what they pay for. So when you're thinking about, oh my gosh, people aren't engaged, the first thing I do is, are you charging or not, right? It's easy to forget about something that you got no skin in the game. So that is something when people are nervous about starting a paid community and think it will be easier to get people engaged in a free community. It's kind of the first notion we try to disabuse them of. But the average of Mighty networks that charge is $48 a month, $48 a month. And then within that, we see one-time fees for a course or maybe a special event that can be around $500 a month. There's a lot of variation, right? Tony Robbins is on Mighty. His program, I think, is in the tens of thousands of dollars, right? That's a really high-end ticket with installments and a different kind of way of getting into it. And then, of course, there's some that would be more $9, $11. But the average compared to a paid newsletter, which is typically between $5 and $9 a month, the average is that $48 a month. Because when you think about bringing people together around health and wellness, relationships, career, personal development, and you start to work backwards from what is this result worth and what could it replace in somebody's life? I mean, I'm in some parenting communities and I think about what is it worth it to me to have a better relationship with my kid? I'll tell you, it's more than $48 a month.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm writing that down because I don't want to miss it. What is the result worth? And what did you say? What is this result worth?
Yeah, I'll give you a little preview of the pricing step we talk about. So there's the 3 R's to think about. Results. What's the result worth? Replacement. What could this replace? Which is really relevant if it's health and wellness, for example. Is this replacing a trainer or a gym membership?
Yeah.
And then respect, which is a little bit of that people pay attention to what they pay for. What are you going to charge that ensures that, one, your time as the host is respected, right? You see people who are like, I'm just going to charge $1 a month. And they're doing all this work at a price that isn't offering them any benefit, right? So they're not respecting their time. And then someone's paying $1 a month. I lose $1 a month in the couch cushions, right? That is not enough for the person who's purchasing to respect or value what you're offering.
Right.
So it's not an exact formula, though we have a lot of data that we share through our AI tools. You can be like, okay, what's the average health and wellness? What should I think about charging? But I do like to anchor people to that $48 a month because at least it can get some of them from, I'm going to charge $1 to, okay, maybe I could charge $19.99, right? They start to think bigger, which the data encourages them to do.
Yeah. So I have so many questions that are going to get us in the weeds, but I like them.
I love the weeds.
I like just it. I think it's good for you guys to hear because right now this is so cool. I'm switching my stuff over right now to Mighty as we speak. And so I'm still understanding it. And so this is great. I'm like, oh my gosh, Jane's going to help me understand what I'm even doing and bring energy around it. And it already has me so excited to go in there. But what I was, I love helping people create groups through the challenge. They have these parties, then they have challenges, and then it activates the group. That's kind of what it is. But I also love doing my own groups. And so I have a singles group, I have a challenge group, I have a collaboration network. This is all on Facebook right now. And then I'm just starting a brand new group, which is for San Diego specifically. And so
Cool.
I have the groups that I'm helping people start. And then I also have all my own stuff. And then I was still in my mind going to have my Facebook group be the free group that led them into the Mighty Networks group. And I was just kind of curious. And then also, it almost sounds like I could put them all in one thing. It's not like I need 10 different groups. It's all just one thing that maybe they get access to different things. That's what I meant about the weeds.
Yeah. So you can do that on Mighty in a couple different ways. So you could totally imagine somebody comes to your domain, your page on Mighty, and they just buy a course, right? They're just in one course, one challenge, and maybe that's as deep as they want to go. You can offer that to them without them having a full membership to all of the stuff. And maybe there's 4 of those and you kind of just want them to be their own things. That's totally cool. When you want to really foster that member to member connection across all of them, you can bring people into a traditional community. So it's really up to you if you want to have everybody in the party together, and then there are these rooms off the side that people are going into. That's totally cool. Or if you're like, I want you to be in the rooms. I want you to be at different house parties. And then if you're cool, if you're into it, we're going to go over to the pool party in the back or something. You can kind of, I don't know, my party metaphor works.
Yeah, because I see a good party. So yeah, because if you're just fun. Yeah, you have to have fun. Yeah. Yeah.
It is. I mean, that's why we call we hate the word user, a user of a Mighty network, right? Yeah. It's a host. It's a host of a party. Look, some of the parties are more serious than others, for sure. You can do real serious, deep work on a Mighty network, but ultimately you are a host in that you're bringing people together. And there's a framework, such a lame word. There's a phrase we use and love, which is the idea of going from hero to host, which is really helpful for people who are like, let me strap this on my back and be the hero and everyone's going to come to talk to me, versus no, how do you host something and get the people mixing and mingling, and you can step out to the pantry for a little bit.
Yeah, because that's people's biggest complaint when they talk to me about building community is like, I'm going to have to do so much work. And I'm like, no, you really don't. You're just creating the space for the people to talk to each other. Once you do that, you're good. It's like, as long as the people understand the values and what you're doing in the community. And like you said, when you have those ambassadors that are leading it, it becomes this just beautifully activated space where people are connecting. And I love that you guys are fostering that with People Magic, because you're making it easier for people to connect. And I can't wait to get myself in there and start to play with it, because that's going to be a whole nother thing.
And the goal is really that it becomes the easiest business to run, right? I think there's a perception right now that it is more work than just sitting at your desk writing an email newsletter. Personally, I have deep blank page syndrome, so that doesn't ring true for me, but I totally get it. People are like, oh, I don't want to try to bring people together, right? I just want to put out my stuff and then have it go off and work for me. Ultimately, there is no passive income. There's labor involved in all of these things.
Yeah.
But to me, right now, as it stands today, the labor of bringing a community together is a lot more fun and joyful and impactful. And all of the things that we're doing with People Magic, the goal is that even that work you have to do becomes smaller and smaller and smaller through people magic and dynamic meetups and dynamic segments of people and introductions. And then, of course, admin and automations. We have all of that for the admin side of things, but really that work of facilitating. And then you as the host, you're really mingling. You're stopping by like, what's happening at this event? What's happening at this group? That's the ultimate vision. And we're a lot closer than people think. So in many ways, I think a lot of the work we have to do at Mighty is showing that off because it's hard to believe. Community feels hard as something we hear all the time, and trying to shift that and be like, no, you don't understand. The technology has changed so much in what's possible, and it's going to be a lot more fun. That's what we're working on doing.
Well, please share what your number one piece of advice is for people on doing the thing.
Doing the thing. Oh my gosh. The number one thing is just do the thing. Just do the thing. And I know this is really in line with your ethos, and I love it. I see people overcomplicate it, and I'm a planner too. Okay. I'm not a Virgo. I'm a Sagittarius, but I'm still a planner. I get that you want to have everything buttoned up before you launch your thing. Because community is a human system, you need to learn from real people being in your community and poking at things and testing things and trying things and seeing interactions. And so just getting it launched, you can have one space. Those are the building blocks of your community on Mighty. You can have one space that's a chat or a feed. Pick your poison and just get people interacting, and then add on events, add on courses. You can do all that stuff later, but you really want to get people in to see how it's going to evolve. It's not going to evolve just with you. It's going to evolve with other people. So don't waste time. Get them in. We'll help you, but get them in.
Yeah. And you speak to something so powerful because there's so many people out there that are scared to look bad or to fail or to all the things. But when you get a community around what you're doing, they love being part of that process and that journey on. And
So much.
it's almost like you're missing out if you have them see you when you're good. You want them to see you when you're still working
And get
on
invested.
Yeah.
There's a reason why, not just in online communities, but everywhere, there's a reason why the term founding member, people like that. I want to be a founding member. And we always say community is forgiving because we have lived it. Oh my gosh, Stacey, the number of community events or live streams or mistakes I've made in our 100,000 person buttoned up, like, this is my job, right? And I've messed up in this community. They're right there with me. They are so forgiving, and you have such joy in figuring it out with them, and you get better ideas from them too. It just speaks to the power of community too, because the ideas I'm going to have by myself and plan out to the minute detail would be so much better as a really rough sketch kind of put into a community and refined together. Once you get into the rhythm of it, it's a much more free and fun way to build a business, I think.
Well, please share what people can find out about you and follow along with the things that you're doing.
I love it. Yeah, please come check out Mighty Networks. We have our own community, Mighty Community, all easily Googleable, findable. I'm doing events in there all the time. I love to talk to people about community, which is probably quite obvious. And that's the best place to find me.
Then can you share where Gina's masterclass is again?
Yes, Gina's masterclass is mightynetworks.com/peoplemagic. It's totally free. You're going to sign up. You can go through the videos right there. And then we are going to bug you with emails, but they got good stuff in them, I promise.
Thank you so much for coming on. This was so incredibly helpful. I can't wait to share this with everybody because there's such power in the way that you're able to really break down how to build an engaged and activated community.
I love hearing that. Thank you. Anytime. It's been a pleasure.
Yay. All right, you guys, do the thing. Don't wait for opportunity. Create it. And hey, guys, have you checked out my community yet? DoTheThingCollaboration.com.